Welcome back to The Explainer. So I am absolutely thrilled to dive into today's topic with you because it's one of those invisible, everyday realities that will literally change how you look at the world around you. Let's set the scene for a second. Picture an ordinary afternoon. You get home, same as always, and pop open the door to your garage. It's a familiar space, right? Maybe a little cluttered, boxes stacked up high, some shelves covered with tools you haven't used in ages, just a single window letting in that pale winter light. You probably don't think twice about what might be lurking in those shadows. But, well, the data tells us something is living there, something is multiplying there, and it carries a microscopic threat that we're honestly only just beginning to truly understand. As you walk through that familiar garage, or hey, maybe it's a shed or a storage unit, you might never actually spot the culprit. More often than not, it's just the common deer mouse. And here's the wild part. The virus it carries doesn't hurt the rodent at all. The mouse is basically the perfect host. But the mechanics of how this threat jumps from them over to us, it's terrifyingly simple. When we breathe air contaminated by aerosolized, meaning airborne infected urine or droppings, or even if we just handle an infected animal without the right gear, that virus rides straight into our lungs. And once it's in there, the biological clock starts ticking. So what exactly does this virus do? Well, it causes what's known as Hantavirus pulmonary syndrome, or HPS for short. Once it hits your lungs, the virus moves directly into the bloodstream where it essentially wreaks havoc on the small blood vessels in your organs. Patients literally bleed from the inside. Kidneys fail. Lungs fill up with fluid, which causes suffocation. And the stakes here, they are absolutely crucial to understand. According to the CDC, HPS is lethal in about 30% of all cases. 30%! That is a staggering fatality rate for a bug that might literally be bunking in your own home. Crazy, right? Most folks have absolutely no idea this threat lives right next door. But the CDC has been tracking hantavirus cases across North America for decades now, and the ecological baseline is undeniably shifting. So before we go any further, I want you to ask yourself a question. What diseases might be living in your storage spaces right now, just quietly passing between animals you never even see? Okay, let's dive into this history and figure out exactly why public health officials are on high alert. Which brings us to our first section. The 1993 warning sign, a truly shocking outbreak. To really grasp the gravity of this, we've got to zoom out from the micro level of your garage to the macro level. The history of this virus proves we aren't talking about some sci-fi movie plot here. This is a repeating ecological pattern, and the defining chapter of that pattern kicked off just a few decades ago. Let's trace this rapid-fire mystery exactly how it went down. Spring of 1993. A family in New Mexico falls sick with something doctors just cannot identify. It starts off looking like the flu, fever, muscle aches, extreme fatigue. But then, horrifically, their lungs begin filling with liquid. Over that summer, cases spread like wildfire across the American Southwest. Arizona, Utah, Colorado, Navajo communities were hit especially hard. By summer's end, 31 people had tragically passed away. Health authorities were scrambling until researchers finally isolated the virus right back to the deer mouse. What they figured out was that El Niño weather patterns brought heavy rains, abundant crops, and mild winters. All of that triggered a massive, unprecedented explosion in the rodent population, dragging human exposure right along with it. Moving on to Section 2, Rodent Multiplication. Let's look at how climate acts as an engine for this threat. That 1993 outbreak left a permanent mark on epidemiology because it proved, without a doubt, that climate patterns directly drive infectious disease. And that brings us to the core biological reality we're facing today. Let's walk through exactly how this terrifying exponential math unfolds step by step. It all kicks off with step 1, warmer winters. This simply means way more rodents survive the cold season, which leads us right into step 2. Spring breeding seasons start earlier and fall seasons stretch out longer. Just one single pair of deer mice can pump out 2 to 10 offspring multiple times a year. And here comes the crazy math in step 3. Given perfect conditions, a single population can double every 80 days. Every 80 days! Step 4 is the inevitable result, a massive regional explosion of the rodent population. Climate change is literally building the perfect engine for these populations to just thrive and multiply. Just to put the sheer scale of this math into perspective, an ecosystem that used to hold, say, 100,000 rodents, it can easily explode to support 300,000 or more in a super short window of time. That's a massive jump. And here's the kicker. These animals don't just stay put out in the forest. When their habitats get stressed by drought or weird temperatures, or when we build right into their backyards, hundreds of thousands of hungry rodents go looking for food and shelter. And guess where they find it? Yep, our barns, our storage buildings, and our homes.
This leads into Section 3, Straining Our Systems, where we'll look at the major food and health risks.
When these supersized populations invade human structures, the vulnerability just cascades through our entire society. Zooming out, you can really see how this localized mouse in the garage problem transforms into a massive strain on incredibly vital human systems. We're looking at two parallel threats here. On one side, we've got food security. Infected rodents looking for a cozy spot move right into agricultural grain stores. Think about it. A single infested barn could theoretically contaminate thousands of tons of grain with viral urine and feces. A processing worker or farmer sweeping that floor without mask? Instantly exposed. On the flip side, we have our healthcare systems. HPS requires intense medical care. We're talking mechanical ventilation, kidney dialysis, specialized isolation rooms, so a regional spike in cases heavily strains hospital resources. And this isn't just theory. During a 2022 outbreak of a different Hantavirus strain over in South Korea, the required ICU level tear put a very real, very heavy burden on their local medical infrastructure. And the global data proves this absolutely isn't just an American Southwest problem anymore. The baseline is shifting everywhere. Check this out. A 2022 study by researchers at the University of Helsinki found that hantavirus infections in Finland had jumped fivefold in just 15 years. 5 times. The virus is becoming endemic across way wider geographies. From Canada to Europe, major organizations like the World Health Organization and the CDC are watching this baseline shift upward as changing ecological conditions make it easier and easier for the virus to transmit. Let's get into Section 4, Protecting Yourself. Time for some actionable solutions. Okay, I know we've covered some pretty heavy systemic realities so far, but the history we learned from 1993 gave us a massively empowering lesson. Once we know the source, transmission can actually be completely controlled just through our own behavior. So let's shift gears. Let's look at the actionable micro-level solutions you can use right now. This brilliantly illustrates exactly where we stand medically versus behaviorally. Look at the right side first. What does not work yet? We have no vaccine, we have no cure, only supportive medical care to help your body fight it off. And honestly, our baseline community preparedness right now is pretty low. But check out the left side, what works. Things like USGS and CDC testing of wild populations, that works. Proper ventilation and public education, flawless. Trapping, removal, and creating structural barriers completely cut off your exposure risk. We don't need some medical miracle if we just handle our physical spaces the right way. So here is your personal defense playbook. If you live or work in an area with hantavirus, and by the way, you can easily check the CDC website for your specific region. This is exactly what you need to do. Say you have to clean an area with rodent droppings. First, dampen the surfaces with a spray bottle of diluted bleach. Never ever sweep dry. Seriously, don't do it. That just kicks those lethal particles right up into the air. Always wear a mask and gloves. Dispose of everything in sealed bags. Make sure to seal up any gaps in your building's foundation. And lastly, use traps instead of poisons so you can safely and predictably dispose of the rodents. It's a simple, straightforward checklist, but it is highly effective. We've really got to remember that the natural world and our modern world, they aren't separate things. We live inside the exact same ecological system as these rodents and their viruses. The evidence from peer-reviewed research and global health agencies is crystal clear. The next 5 to 10 years are absolutely critical. This is the window where this expansion is either going to accelerate totally unchecked or it's going to stabilize. And that stabilization depends entirely on how proactively our communities respond and adapt our buildings and habits today. We can face this ecological shift with fear, or we can face it with clear eyes and purposeful action. So I want to leave you with one final massive question today, and I truly want you to drop your answers down in the comments below. If you learned that hantavirus had been detected in the rodent population in your very own community right now, what would you actually do differently tomorrow? Not the official textbook answer, your real personal answer. Thank you so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. Stay safe, stay curious, and keep learning.